India put forth the right kind of deal that Donald Trump actually requires, as part of those big announcements. Let's hold our horses on that front. I still want to understand the pure optics of these two leaders coming together, the handshakes and the warm hugs. Let's talk about that just a little bit. Ambassador Manju Seth, the Modi and Trump bonhomie, there is a personal rapport that everybody can see. I'm sure tomorrow the headlines and the newspapers are going to cover it all. But how much does this personal chemistry, is going to be able to translate into actual policy win that we're going to see? Just like Aditya mentioned, right after that bilateral, we're going to look at a crucial key joint statement that is going to be delivered by these two global leaders.
Absolutely. The bonhomie and the rapport between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump will be one element, one contributing factor to a positive outcome and a mutually beneficial outcome. But it is not the only one, and it cannot be a deciding factor. Of course, when there is something which is stuck and they're not able to find a solution to it, yes, then the bonhomie and the rapport and the good relationship does help to navigate and to negotiate in a positive, mutually win-win situation. So I believe that this during this visit, yes, the bonhomie will be on display, but both sides will have to be clear that their interests are not compromised. And I think President Trump has been announcing from right even during his campaign that he will, and he's been naming India every time, and for tariffs. So he will ensure that at least the optics, at least it is clear that he has got some concessions for America, for American goods, or for America, for imports into America. But at the same time, we also wherever we have some leeway, we will have to, it'll be a give and take situation. It can't be a one-way street. But yes, since the trade balance is heavily in our favor, maybe we would have to consider where we'll have the least damage, and I think those products will be considered for reduction in tariffs. So by India. So I think it will be a mutually beneficial thing in the long run, because then we cannot just say that we can't be rigid, and neither I believe the US will be rigid, because this partnership, both sides recognize the importance of the strategic partnership, the global partnership, global strategic partnership that both sides enjoy, and both sides understand the importance of the relationship. And I don't think this is going to any issue will be allowed to impact the strength of this partnership, the strength of this relationship. So going forward, I think this visit is very significant, and it will have a number of positive outcomes and a win-win situation for both sides. On some issues, we'll have to give. On some issues, the US will have to give, I'm sure. That's how negotiations take place. And the bonhomie, I think, will facilitate proper negotiations and fruitful negotiations.
Professor, already people have started talking about the tariffs, the defense diplomacy. What do you think, beyond the optics, what do you think is going to be the biggest takeaway? And then we'll start, peeling off the layers of all that we can decode in the run-up to that key, crucial meet between Prime Minister and Donald Trump. Over to you, Professor. Key and tangible takeaways from this crucial bilateral.
Thank you, Kabir. I think let me just frame it in the terms of the larger geopolitical shift which is happening. And looking at, in the first 3 weeks, whose calling card has the most power, the most bang for the buck in Washington, D.C. And in that, I think India could, be very happy that we are at number 4 right over there. It says a lot about what the past is, bringing to the current on the table, on the agenda. But more importantly, I think in terms of the situation of multiple theaters of war, of a lot of contestation, I think partnerships are up not only for re-examining what they have brought in the past, but I think how they're going to be renewed and taken forward. So I think that is the first and foremost, in the fact that India gets to be in Washington, less than under a month, tells you that how important is this investment in the bilateral. And that bilateral definitely should be read with the other things which are happening, as to correctly pointed out, what is happening on the war in Ukraine, and then subsequently also what is happening in the Middle East. In all of this, I think the fact that Paul Kapoor has been named as, coming in as the Assistant Secretary of State for South Asia is a very welcome development. So I think I would really endorse what Sandeep said on that point about, look at the number of, India faces. Let's not forget they are Americans first at this point. But I think it's also indicative of what the India story over the decades has played out, this large diaspora, in terms of translating today into an important part of the political decision making apparatus. I think that is something one has to look at, as Indians, not merely in high tech, not merely in Silicon Valley, but people who have now become part of the administration, who are going to be co-designing, what is the agenda which is happening. Point number two, I think there a lot has been said about the personal equation between both the leaders, and I think one has to really put it on the table. That is extremely important. You've seen pictures of leaders who kind of avoid any kind of even eye contact, and here it's the opposite. And that, I think, is a very good sign. But let's look at what else is there. The fact that President Trump has already put tariff squarely on the table even before coming into office is a clear indication that a deal making has to be done, as you've also pointed out. So India has also gone to Washington with a list on what it would like to engage with. But remember, both sides are looking at strengthening the partnerships. This is not about not having, when the presser is going to take place later in the day, before that dinner in the evening, it's going to be extremely important to highlight defense is right at the top. How is US looking at reducing the trade deficit with India would mean that India needs to buy more, and
Absolutely
that's
right.
extremely important.